Coming up on the next episode.
Good day, YouTube. Here with you again at the bench, DERB, where we are working once again with the RCA 66X1 multiband receiver, broadcast and shortwave. And what I want to do is kind of do a little recap what we did last time and what we got working, and let's go from there. So as you can see, there's a lot of new caps in here. All over the place. I did a complete recap of the wax paper caps and the filter caps. So it's got all brand new caps in it, and I also replaced one silver mica cap in the on the detector audio tube, whatever, and that's the one that was making the noise. And that, I believe, my own belief is that it was silver migration disease that you were hearing. I believe that was inside that cap. I think that's kind of a rarity for those to do that, but that's exactly what it sounded like to me, and I think a lot of others mentioned that too. So that's pretty good. We're going with that theory. And so anyway, that has been fixed. Now we have a nice clear audio, and I did do the volume control, cleaned and lubed it. And it's all back in place and working very well. And as we saw in the last episode, we have no radio coming through the receiver. Even with putting a 455 kilohertz modulated tone at the antenna and trying to feed that through, that does not come through. Now, since then, what I have done, and I'm going to do it again and show you, but I want to go over it first. Let me get my little pointy stick. What I did exactly was to, if we look at the diagram up on the screen now, I took my little BDSI 455 modulated signal that is in that probe and applied it to pin 3 of the 12SA7 tube. That is the first detector and oscillator tube. And with doing that, I got a signal through the speaker to the speaker. The modulated tone came all the way through. It was pretty good and loud, and I thought that was a good idea. And so next what I did was to feed it into the previous stage, which was the 12SG7 RF tube at pin 4, which is the grid, and I got nothing. Now, that's basically as far as I took it. I did do some other testing. I put it in at the IF tube on the grid, and it was even louder than the other ones, and Bob seemed to think that was a problem, which I understand that, but my goal here is to find out why the signal is not getting through the whole radio. If that is a problem with the 12SA7 not amplifying enough, then we can address that later. But for right now, what I want to do, there's basically two reasons why that 12SG7 might not be working. One could be a bad tube, and the other is no plate voltage. It's supposed to have 52 volts on it, and I haven't checked that. So that's one thing we need to do, is check that, find out if that plate voltage is there. And also, if I can take and put the 455 modulated signal in at the plate, and it goes through that little network of coils and capacitors there, as you can see on the schematic if you're looking at it, makes it into the radio, comes out the speaker, then we can pretty much clear all that stuff being good. And so, that's the way that works. So that's a couple of things I want to try, but I'm going to go ahead and show you what it does here by switching it on and putting that signal into the correct spot, and then we'll go from there. So stay tuned. Alright, I am back once again. I have the radio on, and if we look at our tubes down here, this is the 12SA7 that I'm going to inject the signal into, and this is pin 3, and you can hear when I touch that. Well, if I turn it on, maybe it might work. There you go. You can hear a nice clear signal, controlled by the volume control. So that means that signal is getting through to the speaker, obviously, through the rest of the IF, and that's before the IF transformers and things like that. So that's the equivalent of putting it at the plate if that circuit is good, and we're going to test that next, so hang on. Alright, as you can hear, it does come through from the plate. So that means that the network there, the little coils and capacitors and resistors, it is at least somewhat working and is allowing the signal through. Now that just leaves measuring the voltage on the plate, and if that comes out to be correct, then we can pretty much assume that the tube is bad. So let's do that next. Alright, well there you can see, I think, the clip lead is connected. That is pin 8 of the 12SG7, the RF tube. And we're checking for voltage, and we have it hooked up to the fluke. And let's look up here. I think you can see that, 105 volts. So there's plenty of B plus there, in fact too much. But I assume that is because the tube is not conducting. That would be my guess. So that means that that tube is bad. Now this is just one way of showing you don't always have to have a tube tester to rule a tube bad or good. And same thing goes with transistors or any amplifying or active device, I guess is what I'm saying. So basically my tube tester, I don't know if I mentioned this in the last video, but apparently the octal range of it does not work. Every tube I put in there tested exactly the same, dead as a doornail. So what I'm saying is basically there's no action going on at all in there. So that just means that that tube is bad and we need a new one. So there you go. That's I think most of our problem right there is that tube, and I'm hoping anyway that's it. I think this pretty much proves it. You have signal going from the plate through the radio, and that means you know, it's working the rest of the way. And if you put it in at the grid of that tube, there's nothing. So there's no amplification. It's got plenty of voltage on the plate. And I think, like I say, that's a good indication that the tube is not conducting. So, all right, that's about it for right now. Let me get some other stuff done. We'll be back. All right, well, as you can see, we are back inside now. I did measure the, I don't know if I mentioned this in the last clip or not. I can't remember. That was several hours ago. And I have eaten dinner and did some other stuff since then. But basically what I did was measure the B plus on the tube plate of the 12SG7. And it measured, I believe, 70, no, over 100, 104 volts, that's what it was, on that plate. So obviously the tube is not conducting because there's no drop at all there. So I have to assume that is a tube is bad. So, and then Bob wanted me to check this 1200 ohm resistor right here. And if you look at the schematic, you can see it goes between the positive of the 47 or 50 on the schematic filter cap, and the other end goes to the audio output transformer. So I measured that on each side. It measures let's see, on the high side it measured 126.3, and on the low side, which was the one we measured on the plate of that tube, was 105.6. So obviously we've got higher B plus on this set than originally they did. Could be because of the line voltage is being up. I am using the constant voltage. I'm not using the variac, so whatever the line output is through the isolation transformer is what I am using now. I don't know if it steps it up a little bit too. Some of them do, but regardless, that's what it is. So there you go. Bob wants me to disconnect the items from, or something from, or anything from pin 4 and double check that to make sure it's the tube, but I don't think there's any problem with that. I believe that's a pretty good indication that the tube is bad. So, and I'm looking there and it's way down here. Yeah, it's one way down here. Right there. So, like I said, we'll go ahead and order one of those because even if it is not bad, I'll have an extra one that way in case I need one. So there you go. And like I said, that's what we're at right now. And like I said, until I can get that in, I don't believe that not a lot else I can do. Like I said, it's already recapped and everything, so probably don't need any more of that. And it's all rewired, and all the wiring is good, and I'm happy with the way it's going. It's just I want to get a signal through this whole thing all the way, and then I'll be happy. I can go ahead and troubleshoot the other minor problems. To me, Bob thinks they're a little more major than me. I don't think they're that major. But anyway, it's difference between, I told him, just difference between troubleshooting styles or whatever. And so that's just me and that's just him. So there you go. All right, you're going to call it right there. And like I said, we'll get off of here and be back when we have a new tube. Good day, YouTube. Again, I am back once again on this RCA 66X1 radio. Taking a little break from the bench right now to explain some things. Bob had me do a test yesterday on the 12SG7. He wanted to know if there was a problem with pin 4, and pin 4 is over here, as you can see right there. It is the grid of the 12SG7. And he was thinking maybe something was grounding out this pin, causing no signal to get through. And I thought, well, okay, we can do that. So what I did was basically disconnect the wire. There was a single wire running. It runs down to a trimmer capacitor down out of the circuit, out of the view here. But I disconnected that completely at pin 4, and then I applied the signal to pin 4 from the BDSI, the 455 modulated tone. And every time I would press the button when connected there, I would get a hum. Much like you would get a hum from touching your finger on a audio input, that kind of hum. So I explained that to him, and he seemed to think that meant the tube was bad. So I am ordering the tube. I've spoken with Bob Dobush, whatever his name is, and I asked about the quote for the price and everything, and he's getting back to me. So once that happens, I'll go ahead and order that, but it hasn't happened as of yet. So
you have mail.
What I'm thinking here is, I thought, well, last night while I was laying in bed, I thought, well, I wonder if there's a substitution for that tube, and I might have one of those. And in searching the internet for it, I came across a couple of places that mentioned that the 12SK7, this tube right here, could be used in place of the 12SG7. Now there's some basic differences as far as internals. I don't know how we can see it, but the pin 3 here is connected. This is actually pin 3 up here. Pin 3 connects to pin 5, which is a cathode, and that is done internally. Now, they said on the discussion of this substitution that if your circuit did that externally, which this one does, you can see pin 3, pin 5 right there is connected to ground. So that does that automatically, and you don't really need this inside, and so the 12SK7 doesn't have that. So it would be the same thing. All the rest of the pins seem to be pretty much the same. In fact, exactly the same. But also the other part of this is the transconductance is not as good. The gain is not as good on the 12SK7, but it would at least give us an idea if the signal will make it through then. And I think I'm going to do that. I think I have an extra 12SK7 laying around in the spare radio that I was using to supply the 35L6 and to check the 12SQ7. So I think that same radio has the 12SK7 in it as well. So I think what we're going to do is put that in and see if it works. Now I want to, when we get back to the bench, I want to go ahead and demo this noise for you before I connect this wire back, and then we can at least you can hear what I heard, and so that will be good to do. and that should show us something, I guess. And like I said, once we do that, I'll connect pin 4 back up to that wire, and we will stick a spare 12SK7 in and see what happens. So join me for that. All right, we are back at the bench once again, as promised from the previous segment. And I wanted to show you, here is the tube in question, the 12SG7. There is pin 4 right there. Underneath this, there's a connection you can see here to here. That's 3 to 5, by the way. That's what we were talking about, that external connection. So pin 4 is right here, and here's the wire it used to connect to, this trimmer capacitor, as you can see right there. And that trimmer capacitor goes on to another connection. It was noticed in the on the schematic that it goes there, so I don't know exactly where it goes, but we're not concerned with that right now. So what I'm going to do is connect the clip lead to pin 4 and connect the other end of the clip lead to the BDSI, and we'll see what happens when I get this all done. So let me do that, and I'll bring you right back. Alright, what you can, I think here, let me turn it up a little bit. The radio is humming. That's the audio. There's nothing else coming through. So let me show you what this does when I do this. Here's the BDSI right here connected as I showed. And you can hear, that's the noise I get when I press the button. And no tone, obviously. So I think that's just what Bob is correct. I believe that tube is just bad. So next thing I'm going to do is get this undone here, unplug it, and we're going to take and remove the 12SK7. I hope that I have extra. I haven't actually checked yet, but it was the same circuit other than the 12SG7. It didn't have an RF tube in it, but the rest of it was the same, I do believe. So let me see if I can find that and round that up, and we'll put it in and see what happens. So stand by. Alright, we are back once again. The pin has been reattached to the wire, as you can see right here. And that is just tacked right now, but I will get that in better later. I just want to get this for an idea of how it works. And the 12SK7, which here is the 12SG7. Well, you can see that, but it's 12SG7. 12SK7 from the other radio. In fact, there was two of them in there. One was glass, one was metal. I stuck the metal one in into this one and see what happens. So let's try it again and see if we get any kind of action at all out of this radio. It may blow up. We never can tell. It's plugged in anyway. So we'll see something, or hear something, or do something, maybe. We hope. There's our noise. Do a little tuning on it. I do not hear anything. So let's go back to the 455 signal, wherever it went to. It got off here and went somewhere else. I'm just going to try to put it in at the around this area and see what happens. See if it's doing anything at all. Nothing at all. Make sure we're still getting it here. I don't hear it anywhere. So that's, I'm going to say that's a fail. Like I said, I kind of expected a little bit more than that. Tuning the radio, like I said, it's just, don't hear anything at all. You would think you get some kind of static or something, but there's nothing. So, I don't know. That it doesn't make the same noise anymore, I can tell you that. So, but again, I just You'd think sticking this in here around this stuff give us some kind of a tone, but it doesn't. Like I said, I don't even remember where I was sticking it at before to get it, but I know it worked before. Let's see, pin 8 I think was one of them. So I'm not getting that now at all. I'm going to shut her down. That's obviously not working. And I want to replace the 12SG7 and see if it goes back to the way it was. So at least we know that. Alright, we have the 12SG7 back in. And I want to test a couple other places here that it used to work, and let's see if it still works there. Oop, yep. Works there. No problemo. Let's put it in down here just see. See, there's absolutely nothing there. But if I go to pin 8, which is the plate, I believe, if I can find it, I'm not getting enough light down here. I think this is it here, I think. Yep. So that works on the plate again, and that's all back to normal. I wonder why it didn't work with the 12SK7 in there. I may try that again and see. Maybe the pen was just dirty or something. Alright, we are back again. Let's make sure again that this is working. I want to make sure that it does what I thought it was going to do. Nothing there at the grid, but let's check the plate now and see if we get it through. This is the 12SK7 again. There we go. So you can hear that works the same there, but it's not working at the grid. So that's a little confusing, but again, I don't know what else to say about it. So there you go. There's an experiment. I don't know if that just means that transconductance of this tube is so low that it doesn't amplify like it's supposed to, or what. But anywho, that was my experiment. So I guess we'll just have to wait on the. You know, another thing I just thought, that could be a bad tube too. And if that was bad, then you know that would cause the same problem. I do have another one, but it's a glass tube, but it probably wouldn't matter. Let me try sticking that in real quick and seeing what that does. Alright, we have the other 12SK7 in. It's a glass tube. See what it does, if it does any different. I think I need some work done on my light here. It's flashing. Nothing there. Let's see what we get down here. Still nothing down here either. But we should still have it at the... Yep, we do. Alright, so that's working there. Okay, so I don't know what that proves. If it proves anything. If the gain of this tube is just not good enough to do anything, which I find that really highly doubtful. But again, I don't know where else to go. Like I said, it is obviously not working that way. So until that tube gets here, I guess that's all we can do is wait and see. But you know, I may look at the circuit diagram a little bit more and see if there's anything else I'm missing. But again, if you look at that diagram around the 12SG7, there's just not a lot going to it other than to the plate. The one grid there is getting voltage secondary, or voltage from the B+, but the rest of it is basically grounded except for pin 4, which is the input. And you know, that's kind of weird the way that's all set up, but anyway, that's just the way it is set up. So as I said, I think we're going to stop this here, and we'll wait on the tube. I don't know if this is going to be the end of this video. Probably will. Because I don't know how long it's going to take the tube to get here, and we'll just have to wait and see. So, all right.